Imagine, imagine building $1 million fashion brand. You launch this massive new seasonal collection. The hype is absolutely real.
Yeah.
And you sell out your entire inventory in like 24 hours.
It's the dream.
Right. It's a dream. You're celebrating. But then fast forward 30 days and you are completely bankrupt.
Yeah.
And that is the brutal hidden reality of e-commerce returns. Because starting an apparel brand, well, it always sounds incredibly glamorous. You know, you picture the mood boards, the fabric swatches.
The creative stuff.
Exactly. The thrill of seeing someone wearing your design out on the street. But the moment you step behind the curtain, all that glamour just evaporates into this highly complex, unforgiving machinery that will quietly bleed your margins dry before you even realize what hit you.
Honestly, the creative side truly is only half the battle.
If that.
Right, maybe even less. The other half is pure logistics, data architecture, and just sheer operational discipline. The fashion industry operates under these intense structural pressures that simply, well, they just do not exist in other retail categories. And my core belief has always been that knowledge is most valuable when you can actually apply it. Because in fashion, if you choose the wrong platform setup, or even if you take a standard platform and configure it without understanding the underlying data logic, it is fatal.
Okay, let's unpack this, because today we are bringing you a masterclass on that exact hidden machinery. We are doing a deep dive into a highly practical 2026 B2B guide on launching and scaling a fashion brand, specifically looking at the Shopify ecosystem.
Just a great roadmap.
It really is. We have this comprehensive guide right in front of us. And whether you are prepping for your very first, small drop, or you're trying to figure out why your established brand is suddenly bleeding cash, this is tailored for you. We are covering the architecture, the variant modeling, and the vicious economics of apparel returns.
Yeah, and before we get into building the actual store, I think we have to isolate why selling a t-shirt is fundamentally different from selling a coffee mug.
Okay.
Because a coffee mug is a singular entity.
Right.
It doesn't need to fit the specific dimensions of the person holding it. Apparel, on the other hand, introduces what the guide calls variant explosion.
Variant explosion. Let's define that, because the math gets terrifying really quickly.
It does.
When we talk about an item's SKU, the stock keeping unit, which is basically the unique barcode for a specific physical item, a single t-shirt design isn't just one product.
Not at all.
If you offer that shirt in 5 sizes and 4 colors, you now have 20 distinct variants.
Right. And let's take that a step further into a real-world scenario. Let's say you design a relatively modest seasonal capsule, just 30 different styles.
Okay, 30 styles.
If each of those has 20 variants, suddenly your catalog tool, your inventory feeds, your warehouse management, and your storefront all have to synchronize over 600 distinct physical items seamlessly.
Wow. But I'm stuck on this variant math, though. Let me push back for a second.
Sure.
Because selling apparel on a standard e-commerce platform, it feels like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, right? Especially if the peg also had to come in 5 different sizes and 4 colorways.
That's a great way to put it.
But if I have 600 variants, why doesn't standard Shopify just handle it effortlessly? I mean, it's a massive multi-billion-dollar tech platform. It runs global brands. Shouldn't it chew through a few hundred t-shirt variations in its sleep?
It's a totally fair question, and it comes down to how relational databases function. Standard e-commerce platforms aren't just, storing a static list of names. They are calculating intersections in real time.
What do you mean by intersections?
So every time a customer changes a color swatch on a product page, the database has to instantly query the exact inventory level, the specific price, and the localized shipping rules for that exact size and color combination.
All at once.
Exactly. Now, standard platforms handle about 80% of these native fashion needs beautifully, but they begin to strain heavily under catalogs, where a single product has thousands of variants, or with made-to-measure items that require, per customer specifications. For that really specialized 20%, you have to turn to the App Store.
Which introduces the human element of the equation, sizing uncertainty.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you cannot reach through your screen and try the fabric on. So the return rates in apparel dwarf almost any other category. Plus, you're operating on a frantic calendar. Fall, winter, spring, summer, exclusive drops, holiday capsules. You're constantly managing an influx of new SKUs and expiring old ones.
Yeah, and that structural pressure means your visual merchandising has to do the heavy lifting that a physical fitting room normally would.
Right.
Your platform has to deliver model shots, flat lays, and high-definition detail shots instantly on a mobile device. Because if it doesn't, The customer just bounces.
So if we accept that apparel structurally breaks standard e-commerce setups by forcing them to handle massive relational data and heavy visual loads, how do we build a foundation that doesn't buckle under the pressure?
Right.
That brings us to the architectural blueprint. And the guide is brutally clear about where you should spend your money on day one.
It really is. The biggest mistake merchants make is over-engineering their software stack out of the gate.
So what's the plan, Math?
The blueprint explicitly advises launching on the basic plan, which is around $39 a month, plus the 2.9% and 30 cents per transaction.
Okay, super accessible.
Very. You only upgrade to the Grow tier, which is about $105 a month, when your monthly credit card volume crosses roughly $25,000.
Why that specific number?
Because at that threshold, the slightly lower transaction fees of the higher tier mathematically pay for the cost of the plan itself. You don't upgrade for vanity features, you upgrade based on processing volume.
Make the math make sense.
Exactly.
And you hold off on the advanced plan, which jumps up to nearly $400 a month until you genuinely require highly specialized custom reporting. Things like analyzing your profit margins by specific garment fits.
Which you do not need on day one.
No. But let's talk about the visual layer, because you still need a site that looks premium even if you're on the basic plan. The 2026 flagship recommendation here is the Horizon theme. And shockingly, it's free.
Yeah, Horizon is a perfect example of democratization in tech. It's built on a section-based architecture.
Meaning what, exactly, for a non-developer?
It means you can completely reconfigure your homepage for a new seasonal drop without hiring a developer to write a single line of code. It's basically modular.
Oh, nice.
But more importantly, it natively supports features that directly impact conversion. Lookbooks, color swatches, and the big one, mobile-first product detail pages.
And the hover swap imagery. You know that interaction. You are scrolling through a grid of products on your phone, you tap and pause on an image, and it instantly swaps to show the back of the garment or how the fabric moves.
Yes, that is huge.
It seems like a tiny detail, but the guide emphasizes that it meaningfully changes click-through rates.
There is a brilliant insight in our source material from Kevin Clark, who is the design director at Shopify. He points out that as massive marketplaces push for increasing visual standardization, like everything looking like an Amazon gridded independent businesses are the only ones left fighting for unique, differentiated digital experiences.
They have to stand out.
Exactly. And Horizon gives you the tools to break out of that rigid grid without needing a massive budget.
But the most beautiful theme in the world won't save you if your underlying data is a mess.
No, it won't.
And this brings us to product modeling. The guide flags this as the single most crucial step in your entire build. There is a rigid distinction you have to make between variants and meta fields. According to the blueprint, variants are strictly reserved for two attributes, size and color, period.
That's the golden rule.
Everything else goes into meta fields.
Yeah, and to understand why this matters, we need to define what a meta field actually is.
Okay, let's do it.
Think of it as a custom data slot that you can attach to a product. It allows you to store specialized information that doesn't dictate inventory levels.
Like what?
Things like the specific fabric weight, the height of the model in the photograph, or the garment's care instructions.
So what does this all mean for the merchant who completely ignores this rule? Let's say I'm stubborn. I have my t-shirt, and I decide I want to make the fit like slim versus regular variant right alongside the size and color. What actually breaks?
Well, your database essentially implodes.
It literally implodes.
Yes, basically. By making fit an inventory axis, you are multiplying your complexity rather than adding to it. If you have 5 sizes and 4 colors, that's 20 variants. Introduce 3 different fits as a variant axis, and suddenly you have 60 distinct variants for one single t-shirt.
Ouch.
And your inventory reporting scatters this data across unnecessary columns, making it impossible to forecast what you actually need to manufacture next season.
Right, because you can't tell if red is selling or if slim is selling.
Exactly. Furthermore, the shopper experience is totally ruined. They are staring at a massive, confusing drop-down menu trying to compare a medium slim red with a large regular red.
It's just a wall of text.
Yeah. Fit is a descriptive attribute. It belongs in a meta field, so it can render neatly on the page as a text specification, completely separate from the buy box.
Which perfectly transitions into another specification nightmare: international sizing.
Oh, yeah.
The blueprint highlights a feature called localized sizing using Shopify markets. Instead of manually duplicating your entire product catalog to serve different countries, the system is aware of the shopper's locale.
It's so smart.
So a US size 8 seamlessly translates and displays as a UK size 12 or an EU size 40, depending entirely on where the IP address is located. No duplicating inventory.
And that's crucial because hard-coding sizing systems directly into your product titles, like naming a product blue t-shirt medium ages, incredibly poorly the moment you cross a border.
Right.
You want the central database to hold the raw dimensions and let the front-end presentation layer translate that into the local language of the buyer.
So your data architecture is pristine, your digital foundation is rock solid. But the moment the customer finally clicks buy, you run headfirst into the single greatest threat to an apparel brand's existence.
The returns.
The silent margin killers.
Most brands are convinced they have a returns problem. What they actually have is a front-end sizing information problem.
Well, the source actually provides a returns economics calculator. And honestly, reading a math formula out loud is usually a terrible idea.
It is.
So let's break down the concept of this math. Think of your returns falling into two distinct buckets: the round-trip rental and the total write-off.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. Bucket 1 is your resellable return. That's the round-trip rental. The customer sends the jacket back in perfect condition.
Okay, so what does that cost me?
That return only costs you the operational overhead. So the outbound shipping you might have subsidized, the return shipping label, and the warehouse labor to fold it and put it back on the shelf. You can still sell that jacket to someone else and capture a margin.
But bucket 2 is the nightmare.
Yep.
The non-resellable return.
Yeah.
The item comes back damaged or stained or entirely out of season.
That is your total write-off. You refunded the original customer, you completely lost the manufacturing cost of the unit, and you still paid the carrier for the shipping in both directions.
It's brutal.
It really is. The calculator in the guide synthesizes these two buckets to give you one definitive metric: the percentage of your total gross profit that is evaporating due to returns.
Then what's the benchmark?
If you are losing less than 10% of your gross profit, your operations are exceptionally healthy.
But if that total gross profit loss creeps over 25%, the guide states unequivocally that returns are no longer an operational hiccup.
No, they are a strategic crisis.
A full-blown crisis.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be spending your next dollar on Facebook ads to acquire new customers. You need to spend it on fixing your sizing data.
And to fix that sizing data, the generic one-size-fits-all size chart just has to be destroyed.
Yeah.
A single table that attempts to cover tops, bottoms, and outerwear is functionally useless to a shopper. The critical measurement points are entirely different. The blueprint recommends using meta objects to solve this.
Let's define meta objects for the listener real quick. If a meta field is a single custom data slot, a meta object is a way to build a completely custom, reusable data structure.
Exactly.
So you can build a highly specific denim-sized chart meta object and then easily attach it to every pair of jeans in your catalog without it randomly showing up on your t-shirts.
Precisely. You give the customer the exact measurements for the specific garment type they are looking at. And while you can integrate fit finder apps, software that asks the user for their height and weight to recommend a size, you must use them deliberately.
When are they actually useful?
They are incredibly valuable for complex categories like denim or footwear, where sizing conventions vary wildly. But putting a multi-step fit finder on a basic, relaxed fit cotton t-shirt, it just adds unnecessary friction to the checkout process.
Which brings us to the visual defense against returns. The guide cites photography as the highest leverage investment you can make with your launch budget, usually allocating between $1,500 and $6,000.
It's worth every penny.
And you need 4 non-negotiable shots per item: a hero shot on a model, a back view, a flat lay to clearly show the cut and silhouette, and a macro detail shot so the customer can practically feel the texture of the fabric. And technically, you must shoot in a 4.5 portrait crop, exported as WebP files that are under 2,400 pixels.
Yeah, and we really need to explain why those technical specs matter.
Break it down.
First, the 4.5 portrait aspect ratio perfectly fills a modern smartphone screen.
Right.
If you use a 1.1 square image, you are leaving blank space above and below the photo. You're just wasting the most valuable real estate you have. Second, WebP is a modern image format that provides vastly superior compression compared to traditional JPEGs. It keeps the image crystal clear while making the file size radically smaller.
And file size is literally everything. Uploading a massive, uncompressed 4 megabyte JPEG to your homepage It's like putting a giant boulder in front of your physical store's entrance.
Yeah.
You're bouncing mobile shoppers before they even see the clothes. The mobile browser physically cannot render the fabric fast enough on a cellular connection, so the customer gets frustrated and simply keeps scrolling somewhere else.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to shift your mindset to realize that visual merchandising is sizing information.
Oh, that's a great point.
When you provide a flat lay photo paired with a short, native 5 to 15-second video loop of the garment actually moving on a human body, and never use a YouTube embed for that, by the way, you give the shopper the vital spatial context they need.
You're showing them the drape.
You are showing them exactly how the fabric drapes. You are actively preventing the return before they even add the item to their cart.
Okay, so the margin links are plugged. Your visuals are compressed and loading instantly. Your sizing data is bulletproof. Now it is time to actually drive traffic and sell out the inventory.
The fun part.
The fun part. But here's where it gets really interesting. Because the guide insists that a fashion drop calendar is primarily a marketing artifact, not an inventory tool.
Because fashion runs entirely on scheduled anticipation. It's all about the hype of limited drops and exclusive restocks.
Yeah.
While standard platforms handle the scheduled publishing of products natively, capturing the true depth of that demand requires expanding your architecture. You need specialized apps to handle pre-orders, like pre-product securing deposits, before the inventory even hits the warehouse.
Right.
And you need robust back-in-stock systems to manage per-size wait lists.
And the restock playbook outlined here is incredibly smart. When a highly anticipated, sold-out SKU finally restocks, you do not just blast the announcement to your entire email list at once.
No, never.
You email the specific wait list for that exact item exactly 1 hour before you open it up to the general public.
And beyond just rewarding your most loyal customers, the hidden mechanic here is psychological. It dramatically reduces the burst of returns that inevitably follow rushed, panicked buying.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. When customers aren't frantically racing a countdown clock against the general public, they actually take the time to consult the size chart.
I have to push back on some of the urgency tactics in the industry, though. What about those native low-stock urgency features you see everywhere? Right? Little red text on a product page screaming, "Only 3 left in your size." Doesn't slapping that on every single product page feel incredibly cheap? Like, does it ultimately erode the trust you were trying to build?
Yes. What's fascinating here is that consumers have developed extreme banner blindness to fake urgency. It absolutely erodes trust.
I see right into it.
Shoppers are savvy. They know when a brand is trying to artificially manipulate their anxiety. True demand capture is entirely different from stressful little pop-ups. It involves utilizing 48-hour warm-up email sequences to build genuine anticipation for a drop. And it involves deploying sophisticated bot management on the storefront to protect your hyped releases from resellers, ensuring actual human beings can buy the clothes.
And driving that genuine hype relies heavily on social commerce across platforms like Meta and TikTok. The blueprint is careful to specify that you must run these channels through a robust customer events framework to ensure all your tracking is consent-aware.
Which is non-negotiable now.
Completely. And once you acquire that customer, retention falls to email and SMS marketing. Klaviyo is basically the standard here. The guide outlines 4 mandatory automated flows you need to build.
And they're all critical.
A welcome sequence that immediately captures the customer's size preference, a browse abandoned flow that shows them the exact product page they walked away from, the back-in-size waitlist we just discussed, and a post-purchase feedback email.
That post-purchase flow is your operational secret weapon.
Because of the data.
Exactly. You simply ask the customer one question. How did the medium fit? Did it run large? Was it tight in the shoulders? You take that qualitative data and feed it straight back into your meta objects and size charts.
That's brilliant.
It creates an endless continuous improvement loop for your sizing accuracy.
So the drops are selling out to direct-to-consumer buyers. The hype is real. The retention is high. Naturally, the brand is looking at the horizon. You want to go global. You want to see your clothes in high-end wholesale boutiques. You are expanding the empire.
Exciting times.
Very. But the guide issues a massive warning here. Expanding too fast introduces entirely new, deeply complex operational nightmares.
The single most common mistake emerging fashion brands make is launching a B2B wholesale channel on day one.
Why do they do it?
They usually do it because they are desperately chasing a single buyer who showed mild interest. And when you rush wholesale, you are forcing yourself into rigid pricing structures and net payment terms before you even have the consumer data to know what your best-selling products are.
You just destroy your cash flow.
You destroy it. You must prove your direct-to-consumer model first. Understand your margins. Then define a strict wholesale price list with minimum order quantities, and only then add the B2B layer to your architecture, which, by the way, is native only on Shopify Plus.
And when you decide to ship across borders, the friction gets intense fast. Apparel gets hit incredibly hard by international customs.
It really does.
You are suddenly dealing with textile-specific HS codes, which are the global classification numbers that customs agencies use to figure out exactly how to tax your fabrics.
And incredibly low de minimis thresholds, meaning the monetary value at which those taxes painfully kick in is often lower than the price of a single sweater.
Which forces a massive commercial dilemma on the brand. DDP versus DAP.
Right, delivered duty paid versus delivered at place.
Exactly. So with DDP, your checkout system calculates and collects the import duties directly from the buyer at the moment of purchase.
So the total price looks higher up front.
Right. With DAP, the carrier simply collects the duties from the customer at their front door, which keeps your website's checkout price looking deceptively low.
Deceptively being the key word.
Yeah, because if we are being honest, if you try to hide the duties using DAP to artificially lower the cart price, aren't you just guaranteeing that the buyer is going to get a massive surprise tax bill from the FedEx driver, refuse to accept the package, and create a totally non-resellable international return?
This raises an important question about your overarching pricing strategy. You are spot on. That surprise bill at the doorstep is a conversion killer and a massive return multiplier.
It's the worst customer experience.
The worst. The guide states clearly that most successful fashion brands selling into the EU and the UK transition to DDP within their first year specifically to protect the customer experience.
But there's a catch, right?
Yes. The critical nuance is that if you do not pair DDP with regional-aware pricing in Shopify markets, meaning you adjust the baseline price of the item higher in specific countries to account for the tax, you will simply end up eating those international duties out of your own profit margins.
Ouch. And as a quick regulatory note for anyone looking at the European market, as of 2024, the EU General Product Safety Regulation requires that a responsible person, a compliance contact, is explicitly listed on the product page for apparel.
Yeah, you cannot skip that.
It is a highly specific, easily avoidable reason for customs to instantly reject and return your packages. And how do you elegantly display that contact info on the page without ruining your aesthetic design? You guessed it, you drop it into a meta field.
The underlying architecture saves the day once again.
Always. Okay, let's summarize the absolute critical takeaways for you, our listener, before we wrap up this deep dive. The architectural blueprint is clear. Launch your store on the basic plan and utilize a highly flexible section-plus theme like Horizon. Define your meta fields and build your specialized sizing systems before you upload a single product to the database. Invest your launch budget heavily in high-quality, perfectly compressed photography rather than bloating your site with a dozen software apps you don't need yet.
Good advice.
And, most importantly, fix your sizing data to stop the bleeding from returns before you spend a single dime trying to scale your paid ads.
The ultimate lesson here is that success in digital fashion requires intense operating discipline.
Discipline is the word.
Right. The e-commerce platform is just a tool. It will handle the unique, massive structural pressures of apparel incredibly well, but only if you take the time to configure the underlying data deliberately.
Because whether you are prepping for your first 20-item drop, or you are trying to plug the margin leaks in a brand that is already doing millions in revenue, the reality of the machinery cannot be ignored while you focus solely on the creative side.
It really can't. Which leaves us with one final structural thought to ponder regarding the future of this industry.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, we've established that sizing uncertainty and the resulting returns that regularly wipe out a quarter of a brand's gross profit are the core fundamental weaknesses of apparel e-commerce.
Right.
We also know that generic e-commerce databases currently break down under fully made-to-measure catalogs. So, as technology evolves, will the entire global e-commerce platform industry eventually be forced to completely restructure its underlying databases around made-to-measure architecture?
Oh, wow.
Are we moving toward a future where standard small, medium, and large sizing simply becomes completely obsolete in order to finally solve the returns crisis?
That is a massive existential question for the future of retail. Because at the end of the day, you can have all the glamorous mood boards, the launch parties, and the hype in the world. But if the hidden e-commerce machinery isn't built to handle the complex reality of how human bodies actually fit into those clothes,
It's game over.
your profit spreadsheet is going to be a very, very painful read. Keep building, keep measuring, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.